Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are really tearing into a stack of sources. We've got market notes, articles, all pulled from various crypto news sites via CoinMarketCap's community section, and they're all focused on a specific moment, June 8th, 2025.
Right. And our goal here is pretty straightforward. We want to scan this landscape quickly, grab the most interesting signals we can find, and basically figure out what this snapshot tells us about the crypto market on that day.
Exactly. Think of it like getting a curated blast of insight. You don't have to sift through everything yourself. And we found some really eye-opening stuff in here. Some wild altcoin predictions for sure.
Definitely. And a look at some, let's say, risky market moves.
Yeah, plus surprising takes from, the stablecoin world and how global economics is casting a shadow over everything.
Okay, let's dig in.
Let's jump right into altcoins. Because, wow, the sources showed some fascinating contrast.
They really did. Like, on one hand, you had talk about ADA, Cardano, potentially heading towards, what, $5 plus?
Yeah, $5 plus,
Yeah.
a bold target.
Very. But then, like, right next to that, there was this mention of a competitor altcoin, and it was trading at just a tiny fraction of a cent, 0.003333 specifically.
0.003333. Wow.
And the source suggested that one might actually have, quote, stronger momentum right then.
That tiny price next to a multi-dollar target, it just flags the incredible range in the altcoin market, doesn't it?
Totally. It's not just about market cap. It's about, perceived potential, where the energy is flowing. Is it going to establish projects or these microcap hopefuls?
Yeah, exactly. And building on that theme of altcoin potential, another source went even further. It listed specific coins it believed, quote, will explode in 2025.
Yes, I saw that one. They named Blockdag, Cosmos, Aptos, and Ave. The claim was these were gaining serious ground.
And they said June 2025 itself was a pivotal month for watching altcoins.
Calling a specific month pivotal for a whole sector, that's a strong statement. It shows a real sense of anticipation around altcoins right then.
Highlights that forward-looking, prediction-heavy nature of the discussion,
Definitely.
We also spotted a prediction for SEY looking out to 2026, but importantly, it noted mixed sentiment.
Right, and specifically after a hack fallout, that detail matters.
Yeah, and there's a sort of cryptic reference in there, too, something about Quebec's wallet arch.
Interesting. But that SUI detail, it really underscores that it's not just market cycles driving things. Specific events, like a project getting hacked, can cast a long shadow, create uncertainty, even years out.
Good point. Reminds you that project news is just as relevant as the big trends. Okay, so let's pivot a bit. From potential predictions to some actual market action and volatility the sources picked up on.
Right. Ripple's XRP came up. Sources were pointing out its, quote, price volatility during June 2025.
Yeah, and it wasn't just noting the volatility. The sources mentioned analysts were really focusing on XRP. They were providing insights into key resistance levels and market sentiment. So people were actively trying to chart it, even with the swings.
Makes sense. Trying to find patterns amidst the noise.
But here's where it gets, really interesting. The sources highlighted a specific, very high-profile action. Apparently, someone named James Wynn opened a bold 40x BTC long.
A bold 40x BTC long. Wow. Even the phrasing.
Tells the story right. It was explicitly called a high-risk Bitcoin position.
Well, yeah. Using 40x leverage, that's taking on massive risk, amplifying everything, gains and losses.
Exactly. And the sources pointed out this wasn't just, some guy's trade. It was stirring market discussions. And it explicitly stated it raises market risks again.
So it's seen as a signal, influencing the broader chat about risk appetite in the market.
Yeah. It points to this coexistence, right? High-stakes, super leveraged speculation happening right alongside talk about long-term fundamentals.
A real tension there.
Okay, let's shift gears completely. Look at some perspectives from the big players. Got some notable news from the stablecoin world.
The Tether news. CEO Paolo Ardoino apparently snubbed IPO plans.
Yeah, which is interesting because their main competitor, Circle, had recently gone public on the NYSE.
Right. So it highlights these different strategic paths, doesn't it? For the stablecoin giants regarding public markets, one jumps in, the other holds back.
And Ardoino had this quote in the sources. It really jumped out.
Oh, the valuation one.
Yeah. He called a potential $515 billion valuation for Tether a bit bearish.
$500 billion. And that's a bit bearish.
I know. It's kind of staggering, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, for almost any other company on Earth, that number would be astronomical. wildly optimistic. It just reveals the sheer scale and maybe the ambition within Tether. Their internal growth expectations must dwarf even these huge external estimates.
Yeah, bearish on $515 billion.
Wow. Okay, finally, the sources were clear that the market wasn't just looking inwards on this day.
No, definitely not. There was a significant focus on broader macro stuff.
Specifically, the anticipation around the US CPI data release, the inflation numbers. And this raises that important question, about how much macro influences crypto. These sources directly addressed it.
They explained why this data point mattered so much. It directly affects the Federal Reserve's interest rate decision.
Exactly. And according to these notes, the crypto market was really like holding its breath, waiting for this data, caught up in Fed speculations.
It just shows how intertwined crypto still is with traditional finance, with these key economic indicators. It doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Not at all.
So, okay, let's try and pull all these threads together. We've got altcoin dreams, these tiny price points versus big targets.
Active volatility in coins like XRP.
Individual high-stakes leverage bets on Bitcoin, like that 40x long.
Strategic moves by stablecoin giants, the whole Tether IPO thing.
And this looming influence of global inflation data, the CPI.
Ah.
What does this whole mix tell us about the state of the crypto market around June 8th, 2025?
Well, if you connect these dots, like the sources allow us to do, it paints this picture of a market really grappling with multiple drivers. And sometimes they feel like they're pulling in opposite directions.
How so?
You see this long-term optimism, right? Embodied in those ambitious altcoin targets, the predictions of projects exploding. But then right alongside that, you have the reality of current volatility, the impact of specific setbacks like that SUI hack we mentioned, and the presence of extremely high-risk, almost gambling-like speculative trading, the 40x long.
Okay, yeah. Optimism versus immediate risk.
Exactly. And layered under all of that, you have the strategic plays of these massive companies like Tether operating at a scale where, $500 billion sounds modest, and then this ever-present overriding force of traditional macroeconomics, interest rates, inflation data.
So why do those specific details, we picked out that 0.003333 price, the bold 40x BTC long, the bearish $515 billion comment, why do they matter for understanding the snapshot?
Because they're not just abstract trends, right? They're concrete symbols. They symbolize the different kinds of energy, the different levels of risk, the different scales that are present in the market. They show you where the speculation is happening, where the ambition lies, and just how massive some parts of this ecosystem have become, all colliding in the daily reality of crypto.
Right. It makes it more tangible. So for you, the listener, seeing this whole spectrum from tiny microcap potential all the way up to huge macroeconomic pressures, it helps illuminate all these diverse forces. Forces that converge to create the market's direction, its sentiment, on any given day.
Yeah, it's about understanding the whole ecosystem, not just, tracking one price.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. From specific altcoin targets, predictions, a high-stakes Bitcoin trade, surprising CEO comments from Tether, and the focus on macro data like CPI.
It's quite a mix. These sources really do offer a potent window into all the varied factors pushing and pulling on market sentiment and activity on that particular day in June 2025.
It's definitely a dynamic interplay.
Very much so.
So what does this all mean? I guess the final thought to leave you with, based on these sources, is this. Consider how these wildly optimistic future predictions, big price targets for altcoins, huge valuations for giants like Tether, how they coexist in a market.
Where at the same time, individual traders are taking on extreme leverage risks.
And the entire ecosystem is collectively holding its breath, waiting for traditional economic data like the CPI report.
It's this constant dance, isn't it? Sometimes it feels contradictory. A dance between internal speculation, ambition, and that external economic reality.